Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Research 101. Welcome back to the channel as well if you are new. My name is Amir Hussain and I love to talk about all things research. And today's video we are going to be talking about 3 top tips I have learned from 3 different professors I have worked with post my PhD. So I have had the great pleasure and honor of working with a lot of consultants, clinical consultants, professors, academics since my PhD and beyond. I've had the pleasure of working now in a hospital-based research setting, so I'm working with a lot of professors who are MDs, a lot of consultants who are both research active and clinically capable, and it's broadened my horizons about what is possible within research, and thankfully it's taught me a lot of tips I'm hoping to share with you in this video. So as we do with anything in research, we always credit where we get our information evidence from. As you can see here, these are the top 3 professors I have either worked with, seen at our conference, and just a compilation of some of the top tips I've learned from them. I'll be making bigger videos later on, but I thought I'll just share with you a little snippet of what they have taught me. So firstly, we start with Professor Salman Siddiqui, who is a professor of airway disease at University of Leicester and based in Glenford Hospital, because I also work there, so I've had the pleasure of working with him in some capacity. One of the biggest lessons he taught me, and something I've now tried to ingrain in the way I think about life, is making sure you finish a task. That sounds very basic, very simple, yet it is profound as a sort of development curve for you as a researcher. So let me explain why that is important. I want you now to look at your life, both research or whatever work you do or whatever you go in to do in day-to-day life. There are many things that you set out to do. You set out to do X, Y, and Z, but you find yourself not maybe completing these tasks in the way it should be, in the allotted time. There's many things that are left open-ended that you can't be bothered to do, you can't be asked to do, and many times you don't end up finishing something. Now, the way I've seen him work, the methodical nature, his driven attitude, his relentless pursuit to make sure things are done, you move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing, made me realize how much time I waste. Yes, procrastination is something that we can try to overcome, but it's a notion of setting out to do something and actually finishing it. Now, although as that sounds so basic, believe me, when you're a researcher, you have many projects within your projects, side projects within your side projects, other kind of voluntary work, other commitments, and many times you don't find yourself finishing a task the way it's supposed to be. For example, a review paper, getting it done already, not 2 years down the line, something that I've unfortunately suffered. So the notion of having the attention to detail to finish something straight away or when it can be done, not delaying it any further, is a key skill that takes a lot of practice in my opinion. And I saw him doing it and then ingraining it into me to say that you are a finisher, you get things done. And that's something I'm hoping to share with you, is have that mindset to finish something that you have started. Tell your brain, I need to finish this. And the more you do that, the better you'll feel in terms of getting things done. Why? Because there's now more room on your to-do list to do the next thing. Now, Professor David Jackson is somebody who I met in some proximity at a conference a few years ago, and I was blown away by his demeanor, his mannerisms, his intellect, but also how he carried himself in answering questions. Now, he's also a consultant at St. Guy's and Thomas's Hospital in London in the UK. But one top tip that I learned from him that blew me away was, whenever we're looking into research, we may learn something, but we sometimes often neglect the surface and secondary information that surrounds said topic. So say for example, I'm learning about how to look at flow cytometry. That is a technique within the kind of biological space to look at cells and determine, certain proteins and expression levels and X, Y, and Z. Not to get into too much detail on flow cytometry. What I learned from Professor David Jackson was, take greater appreciation for the other parts of the information that supports your story. Now, to put this into perspective so you understand what I'm trying to say, when he was answering questions from all sorts of people in every single webinar I went to, he didn't just know the answer. He knew every single strand connected to that question. So he was able to pan a much bigger picture about trying to explain a scenario and explanation. So the level of detail he knew was profound, and it made me realize that Sometimes we neglect the other parts of our research, the other things that connect our research. I noticed when I was doing my PhD, I knew a lot about angiogenesis, a lot about anti-angiogenic therapy, which was my PhD. But I knew barely anything about kind of the vascular area, the vasculature, blood vessels in general, and that information is needed. The way he was able to introduce all other elements within a topic, within an answer, made me realize there is far more I need to understand and study. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to study everything because that's obviously impossible, but it made me realize and have a greater appreciation for other supporting elements in a research topic. Knowing, the other pathways, knowing the behind and the after, knowing the top to bottom, front, back, left side, all of these type of things to have a more well-rounded understanding of something, that is incredibly important. And believe me, you will notice who knows something like that and who doesn't. Professor David Jackson was a great example of somebody who knows not just the topic, but everything that supports it, and makes it a lot easier to think of research ideas, to think of more potential review papers, to think of all of these within the research. And I think that's incredibly important that I myself am trying to learn, but I urge you to do so. Not just learn your PhD or your master's project, learn the supporting things that relate to it. And lastly, Professor Peter Bradding, who's a consultant in respiratory medicine, again based at Glenfield Hospital in the UK. I've had the pleasure of working in more directly, doing some work on mast cells for this professor. But something that really blew me away from this particular professor, that made me appreciate a lot of the graph that I've tried to do, which is experience is key. Now, I've had the pleasure of had many meetings with him when we're discussing relevant research projects, and I cannot remember how many times he has pulled out a thought or a topic or something interesting, something useful from his experience. Now, this is something you don't find in books, you don't find in an article. This is something that he has either watched, he's done himself. So, for example, how to do a certain technique. He's started to talk about, a few years ago when we were doing some work, we actually tried it this way and that way, and it showed to have a different effect. That's not in the paper, that's not in the book, that's not online, that's from his experience. And it changed the game for nearly 5 or 6 experiments or research projects I was going to develop based off of his experience. And it made me realize that, hold on, I have thankfully had some experience in working in different research projects, different team. I didn't realize there's a lot that I know as well that I'm trying now to instill on YouTube, on Instagram. Again, if you haven't followed me on Instagram, please do so. And it made me realize that how much more powerful experience is, especially within the research field, because a lot of what you get taught isn't just from protocols, recipes, experimental methods. It's also from how a person does it based off of their experience. And to put this into perspective, when I taught my PhD student about using Western blot, a lot of what I taught him was about the experience, the little tips, the tricks, how to get this to work better, how to be more efficient, how to get this done in time-wise fashion, how to get that and that staggered. That you don't see in the protocol, you don't see in their method. That's from experience. So when I've been watching Professor Peter Bradding work and discuss his meetings, I am just amazed by the level of experiences he's had to help solve an issue that has arose recently, because he's probably been through it several times before based off of his experience. So guys, I hope you found those few simple tips useful and effective. Do let me know in the comment section below if you want to hear more kind of top tips I've learned from professors and consultants I've had the pleasure of working with. I just want to give you a bit of a taster to see if you found it useful or not. So please do let me know. Give a thumbs up if you can in the section where it has thumbs up. If you're new to the channel or if you haven't yet, please do subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe, as they all say on YouTube, because it'll be super helpful for me and the channel. And if you want to share it to your fellow colleagues and researchers, please do so. And again, if you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to comment in the comment section below, or you can find me on Instagram at amir.phd. If you have a longer query, you can email me at amir@researchtribe.org, and I'm more than happy to reply to you on that as well. In any case, I shall see you in the next one. Take care.